I think I'll put this at the beginning of this clip that Tim Ferriss says is, if you don't use the 80-20 principle, you will become the opposite of the 80-20 principle, which is what I've been fucking doing for the past like couple months on my YouTube channel, even like half a year.
The objective of the 4-hour work week and everything that I've ever talked about is not idleness. I don't promote idleness. I have nothing wrong with hard work as long as that hard work is applied to the right areas. As long as you have a clear target and you have your sight and your scope very well calibrated so that you are hitting with a high ratio of success. I have no problem with hard work. And I tend to be either on or off. If you are on all the time and you are hustling 24/7 in a very scatterbrained fashion, that in itself is a form of laziness. Indiscriminate action is reflective of too little thinking and planning, and that is lazy. And it's one of the most destructive forms of laziness because it is socially reinforced, and people will encourage you to do that. In other words, they will say, don't just stand there, do something. Well, if you're constantly doing things that are not carefully thought through, you will end up doing the opposite of the 80-20 principle. You will end up specializing in unimportant things. You'll become an expert in doing the things that are trivial well. And that is a travesty and is a huge waste of life. So work hard, I have no problem with that, but only when it is applied to the right things.
I mean, like in so many areas of my life, I haven't been doing it, and what happens is you become average. And what is an average person? It's someone who specializes in doing things that don't lead to high results. I had an absurd fucking day today. Holy shit. One of the weirdest Arlen days ever. Literally woke up, I edited a video. I had nothing on my schedule except I knew I was gonna go to the library because I planned that the night before. But I edited a video podcast for tonight, uploaded that, and then I started reading. Let me just go through my day of what I read. Basically, long story short, I read for like 12 hours today, along with working out and eating healthy. It was like the most educational day of my life. Like, I mean, maybe not even, but like up there. It was crazy the amount of content I went through. Started off reading, oh, by the way, just to preface this, link in description, it's the Tim Ferriss video that influenced me to basically go on this binge, and it's fucking insane how helpful the books were that I read today. It's Tim Ferriss recommending all of these books, so obviously they're gonna be good. And maybe, just maybe, I don't know if you guys would find them as helpful, but like I needed to hear what he had to say today, and I needed to read these books, and it just like hit home on so many levels. But the first book is on vagabonding. And if you don't know what that is, it's basically when you travel the world on extended stay with like very little money. So you work a little bit and then you save up, and basically the author teaches you how to live on like very little means. But the book is also more than that. It's basically challenging like the common perception that like you need a lot of money to be successful, materialistic things to be happy. So it's more of like, it's both a functional book in that sense, but also like a philosophical book. And yeah, no, I thought it was sick. I read like 3/4 of it. It was like a 4-hour audiobook, and I got to like 2 or 3 hours, I don't know. Then I went back, I got to this cafe, which is at the library, and I watched the Tim Ferriss video again, took some notes, went into the library, which is downstairs. It's like an underground library. It's kind of cool. And it's the Green Square City of Sydney Library. So it's one of the city libraries, actually one of the coolest libraries I've ever been in. I got 2 books that Ferriss recommended because the first one I asked I didn't have, but it's like almost like it was fate. The first one was 80-20 principle, and holy shit, I'll get to that. But the first one I picked up actually now that I think of it, it wasn't recommended by Tim, but I saw it on the bookshelf and I'd seen it everywhere, so I had to pick it up, and I'm so glad I did. The book is called The E-Myth, Enterprise version, I think. And it's basically about like the elements you need for a business to succeed. And I guess the key takeaway I got from that is that to have a successful business, the customers, the employees, obviously the CEO, and everyone involved has to feel like that they're doing something that matters. And obviously there's like that was like the one piece of information that I found very interesting that I needed to hear. You'd probably be way different if you read that book. But I can see how someone would find it interesting if they weren't in my position, obviously. Then I picked up the 80/20 principle, started reading, and I was just honestly blown away. Like, I knew that I ended up reading it for a couple hours at Starbucks later on after leaving the library. But on first impression, I was like, I know this is a book that I need to literally sit down and read the whole thing and take notes and do everything with this book, because it's like, it's just so crazy. You can see I'm buzzing right now, but main principle is that 80% of your happiness, success, achievement money comes from 20% of the effort, the work, the people in your life. So 80% of your happiness comes from 20% of the people you hang out. 80% of the money you make comes from 20% of the work you do in your business life. 80% of your success for school comes from 20% of the amount of studying that you do, or the amount of paper, or maybe the relationship that you build with your teacher. 80% of your happiness comes from 20% of your friends. 80% of your happiness in your love life comes from 20% of people. So, and it's not always like that. Like, the principle itself it could be like 90% of the results come from 10% of the input, or even like 90% of the results come from 20% of the input. It doesn't have to perfectly balance like that. That's just common, and it just shows that the universe, for some reason, whatever reason, is unbalanced. Look more into it. I'm not gonna sit here and explain it because my mind is like buzzing by like figuring out things I've been doing wrong using it, and like, because what happens with this rule is that, I think I'll put this at the beginning of this clip, that Tim Ferriss says, is if you don't use the 80/20 principle, you will become the opposite of the 80/20 principle, which is what I've been fucking doing for the past like couple months on my YouTube channel, even like half a year, maybe not half a year. But I mean, like, in so many areas of my life, I haven't been doing it, and what happens is you become average. And what is an average person? It's someone who specializes in doing things that don't lead to high results. And that in itself is, while it might look like you're hustling and you're working really hard, what you're really doing is just being lazy, because you aren't taking the time to take a step back and look at what are the things that I've done that have produced the most of my results. So, for example, with my YouTube channel, if you go and you click most viewed, you can see there's like, there's a bunch of videos that have over 100,000 views, and they're all very similar. I mean, the videos that have like 300,000 views are up. There's only like a few of them, but the top one's a Q&A. And you can see that Q&As are my most viewed video. Why the fuck am I not doubling and tripling down on Q&As is beyond me. Why? It doesn't make any sense. It does make sense. I haven't taken this perspective. I haven't read the book. But that's like one example. Obviously, I'm gonna do more Q&As now, or more collabs where it's like funny and sitting down and good vibes. The drunk Q&As are funny, but like, I don't want to promote that behavior too much. You can see where I'm going with this. The other thing that's crazy and that I'm still putting around in my head is with money, right? So like, I've made some good money from 8 a.m. This is not 8 a.m., but I've made good money from 8 a.m. How would I apply this principle, right? My best, I'll just tell you guys, because I know the people watching this are like my day ones, or like the people that fuck with my shit. Especially if you're watching this far into the video, you're on the same frequency as me. Okay, so I'll cut back to that point that I was about to say. After I left the library, I checked out, hold on. Actually, fuck it, I'll show you. Oh no, we're here. We got the book here. So, I got a library card at the city library in Sydney, and I literally got the book, 80/20 Principle, and I also got the E-Myth. So see, I'm not fucking with you guys. I like actually went off. I will even show you my library card because I want you to see the evidence of this, because it's honestly cracked. Like, it's actually insane. Yeah, so I actually got a library card. Like, who does that? Me. But I found a book I liked. I wanted to take it with me. I knew I needed to revisit it because it wasn't done. So boom, I have it for 2 weeks. We're gonna use the crap out of it. Anyway, I leave the library. By the way, I don't have, I do intermittent fasting, so I haven't had a meal yet. I've had like pretty much 1.5 coffees. And that suppresses my appetite, but aside from that, I work out, good workout. I realized while I was working out that I 80-20 all of my workouts. Because like that's like one thing that I was doing correctly, which is good. I was actually, I'm instead of going to the gym 7 days a week, I usually go 3 days a week, and I do like full body lifts, which is good because it works out all my muscles. I'm working out in a deficit from intermittent fasting, and I look good as a result. I mean, I'm not gonna take off my shirt, but you guys have seen my Instagram. Yeah, so I worked out. While I was working out, I listened to this book called Small Giants, which is a book about how, this was also recommended by Tim, a book about how small businesses sometimes don't scale up on purpose. Like, what's the purpose of having a multi-million-dollar business if what truly makes you happy, 80-20 principle, is having control over the business? Why would you want to build that? So how can you build a business in a lean way? For example, rather than trying to be like a Calvin Klein, if you want to be like a jeans company, or a Levi's, this one woman made jeans at a very high price, custom jeans. She sought out certain clients that could afford them. She started that way, and she now pretty much only has 100 clients a year instead of hundreds of thousands. But they all pay her top price because they want the quality that she has. There's a saying, I think, in either her book, or no, in Small Giants or from Tim Ferriss, where I think it was Small Giants, people would call her up, and they would say, how much do you charge for your jeans? And she would literally hang up the phone, because if someone's asking how much she charges, they aren't in a position to afford her price. So it's cool to think about that way. Now, what am I gonna do with 8 a.m.? Well, that's interesting. I think a lot of people might be upset, but on where I'm thinking of moving it. But let me just tell you guys, just so you have an inside feel of this. I did, like, for the This Goes With My feature, I did about 600 sales for that design. And that's great, but it's a fucking pain in the ass for me. I don't get enjoyment out of it when I get emails on emails from people who, they didn't get the shirt, there was some type of thing, like something issues wrong. Now, don't be wrong, I could definitely hire someone to take care of my customer service. That's not an issue. But do I want to do that? No, not really. I mean, maybe, but here's the thing. Maybe in the future. Here's the thing. What's the purpose of the brand? A t-shirt company to help me make more money? Like, that's stupid. Going back to the E-Myth, people, when they buy a product like a t-shirt, they want to feel like they're contributing to something. And not only that, like, they should be contributing to something. So how can I make the brand something that is actually contributing something to society? And not just have a bunch of, little girls rocking my t-shirts because Maggie, Gretchen, Emma, Natalie are wearing them, right? I'm thinking about it. I'm not going to reveal my answers yet. But how could I position the brand such that it actually provides value to the world? That's something I'm thinking about. If I might have just totally went over your head with that because I'm leaving out a lot of details because I don't want to just reveal them quite yet because I'm still working them out in my own head. But anyway, read Small Giants, worked out, came back, had a healthy meal, eggs, spinach, some dill. That's my secret ingredient for eggs. Toast, had some jelly. Grabbed my stuff, went to Starbucks, started binge watching Ramit Sethi on YouTube, who preaches 80-20 stuff and high price, like charging a higher price and offering more stuff for free, as well as, damn it, I'm blanking on the name. Chase Jarvis, there it is. Chase Jarvis, he's one of the most highest paid photographers in the world. And if you think about it, why would one photographer be paid 100 times more than another photographer if the one that's being paid 100 times less, like how much worse of a photographer could you be if you're Chase Jarvis, right? If you're not Chase Jarvis, is what I'm saying. Like if you're an average photographer, like I have my friend Dylan Kim, I think he's a great photographer. Is Chase Jarvis 100 times more valuable than him? No. I mean, how could he be? Like, how is that even possible? But it's all how you frame your business. So Chase Jarvis, really interesting dude. Tim Ferriss talks about him a lot. All these guys seem to be friends, which I think is dope. Anyway, got into that a lot. Then I cracked open 80-20 principle and I started going through the exercises in one of the chapters. I think it was chapter 12. And they were asking me these basic questions about like 80-20ing my lifestyle and my money. And there's a chapter called Money, Money, Money. Like, and the author's like, it's easy to make money, just invest correctly. And I'm like, oh my God, that's so smart, but why don't I think of that? Because I don't know, because I haven't read the book. Anyway, super excited. I feel like I just did a line of cocaine. Tim Ferriss, guys, get on Tim Ferriss's stuff. I mean, if you don't, I've been on the Gary Vee grind, as you guys know, but doing that, I was on the hustle and not think about it grind, which I think Gary might be guilty of pushing people to be honest. That's my one criticism of Gary, because that's what happened to me. But hey, if I didn't do that, I wouldn't have found Tim Ferriss. And, you know, that being said, the last thing I would say with 80-20 is what I started from that point I was going to say, and like with my YouTube videos, is that I think I found almost like a solution to my brand for the next like year, whether it's on this channel that you're watching right now or moving forward. And I'm just so incredibly excited to keep applying the 80-20 principle, to keep bringing you guys value. And I think I'm going to do it in a way that is so unique. Like I don't really know anyone else that's doing it. And I think what I have to do is add some twists to make it. I know, honestly, like I doubt there's anybody doing what I plan to do, which is really exciting. And I hope you guys can find something too. Check out all those books. I'll link them in the description. That's about it. Enjoy, guys. I'm gonna eat my dinner. Enjoy your day.
Everybody know I'm better. Ay, yeah, I'm better. Ay, it don't matter. Ay, pockets fatter. Ay, nowadays I'm on my haters, they got sadder. Ay, that's money longer. Ay, different song, bruh. Ay, different producer.